Hello, everyone, and welcome to A Balanced Life with Dr. Jacquie here on Black Star Network. And each and every week, we're talking to you about all things balance. As we are rounding out the first quarter of the year, so many of us had balls in the air and we're just tossing and tossing and tossing, thinking that we can catch them all. And oftentimes, many of our priorities, our projects, and our passion work land solidly on the floor. Today, we're going to be talking to three experts in the balanced living space that will give us an opportunity to really set the tone for where we go next. We're joined today by Dr. Tierney, our Level Up coach, Stacey Owens, our balanced living coach and educator, and we're joined today by Jasmine Brett Stringer, our Carpe Diem coach. Tell me, how are you seizing your day and your life? Everyone, come on in. Let's have a couple of conversations because, people oftentimes are unclear of what balance is and what it looks like. And I want to start out with Jasmine. Jasmine, in the work that you do as an author and, in Carpe Diem, seizing every moment of every day of your life, people oftentimes are unclear how to pursue balance. Can you talk to us a little bit about the pursuit of balance?
I'm going to say this. I don't like to use the word balance because when I think of balance, I think of that old time scale that you would stand on and you see the two things and you're trying to get it to hover in the middle. But I think what we need to seek and what I advise my clients when I'm coaching and audiences when I'm speaking to them is to find the harmony of your life. And so what beat can you maintain at a good pace? What cadence can keep you running that marathon? Because we know we're going to have, high levels, we're going to have low levels, but where can you find that flow, that harmonious pace?
So that's an interesting definition because that is what I would consider balance is, because each thing in our life is going to have a different scale and you have to determine how to prioritize it and what level of weight that you want to give it. Jasmine, when you think about those things, the measure of weight and the priorities that you pursue, how do you, I won't necessarily say scale out because I know harmony is your thing, but where do you find the most harmony in the work that you do?
I think what you're asking is how do I rank things when I'm looking at, okay, what's going on in my day? This is what I have to do. Or when I'm helping clients and I'm saying, how do you look at your day?
Absolutely, because that's a part of the dynamic of being able to harmonize or balance is what matter of weight do you give to the priorities if you were to rank them?
Right. So for me, it always starts with alignment of values. So what are my most important values? And so for me, self-care is important, but my family is very important to me. I have this motto, you have to give your best to the nest. We were talking about, work outside of this show today. And I know that I've been gone. So now I've got to come home and give my family some attention because I was able to give the world some outside attention. So before I say, oh, I'm just going to go upstairs and take a nap, I need to make sure that I'm showing up for them and delivering because I was able to deliver to the outside world. When I think about the work that I do, or when I talk to people about the work that they do, where are you going to have the biggest impact? And maybe start at that bucket. And sometimes we have to start thinking about the biggest impact with the things we don't enjoy doing, because often those things that we don't enjoy doing have some type of significance. Like for me, I am not a person in the numbers. I don't like QuickBooks. I don't like doing that. But I know that that's important to the bottom line of my business is to understand my accounts receivables and my accounts payable. So I need to make sure that I prioritize QuickBooks monthly in my things that I have to do.
Thank you for sharing that because there is a point where people have to figure out where is their access to the things that they really need to tackle. I want to ask Dr. Tierney about this. So Dr. Tierney, what is all the hoopla about being balanced? Is it attainable or achievable?
It is. It's absolutely attainable and achievable. I think what often happens is first we think about balance in just like Jasmine said, in a two-part. Most of the time you hear balance is work-life balance. And I said this the last time, balance is a six-piece point. It is professional, it's relationships, it's emotional, it's spiritual, it's financial, and it's wellness. It's all of the things that you can think of that encompass your life. And often what we do is we think that we have to do all the things in all of these areas of our life all at the same time. And that is the quickest way to get thrown out of balance or out of harmony, whichever word you prefer. So when we're thinking about balance, it's not so much that I'm amping out and I'm a 10 in all of these areas. It's just saying that I am focused in on and touching each one of these important areas of my life. I'm not totally ignoring my financial because I don't like numbers. I don't like QuickBooks. And I'm putting all of my time in spiritual because all I need is Jesus. And that's all I need to do. It's when you get up off of your knees praying, then you touch your QuickBooks and make sure that that's balanced, as well as your emotional, as well as your professional, as well as your relationships, as well as your wellness. Not that we'll be perfect in all of these areas, but we're keeping our eye on all of these areas to make sure that we are showing up as our best self in the holistic view of our life. That's really how, when talking about balance, we want to think about it in that way.
So let's go back to your P word, which for many people is a dirty word. You said the perfect word, or perfection. And oftentimes people are striving for perfection, and it causes them to really lose pace with who they are. And, we've talked a lot on this show about being off center, and striving for perfection is one of those things that can truly cause you to become mentally unstable when you're trying to do so many things. Why is perfection a danger?
Because we're human. That's why. For all my believers, Jesus is the only perfect human. So stop it. You're not Jesus. You're not Christ. That is unattainable for us. And so to try to strive for perfection is you're putting yourself on this losing, journey, basically, in that everything has to be perfect in order for you to be okay. Now, we can strive for excellence, meaning we want to do things with a high quality. Absolutely. But if if you're setting a dinner party and a fork is missing, it's still excellent. If you are painting a picture and you have a smudge on the corner, it's still excellent. If your mom and your kids are fed, they are happy, healthy, and whole, and no broken bones, but your house is a mess, it's still excellent, So making sure that we're not looking for everything to be just so in order for us to be okay. That's the difference between perfection and excellence. Absolutely strive to do the best that you can, but knowing that what your best is going to be different from somebody else's, but none of it is going to be perfect. Absolutely none of it. I don't care what they're showing you on Instagram. It's not perfect. And knowing that and being okay with that.
So this brings me to Stacey with a very interesting question, because oftentimes analysis paralysis is a problem. We spend a lot of time seeking balance, harmony, peace, being in alignment with who we are while looking at other people. And oftentimes that does not look like what we would call it to be. Talk to us about that, Stacey, because you oftentimes share with us the value of being your authentic and true self.
Yeah, because everything that you're doing in life, you're doing it, from your purpose, from what you want to do. It starts with you first. And Dr. Tierney is absolutely right. When you start looking at IG and Facebook, they're showing you the end product of something that has been edited several times to get it just the way that they see it as being excellent or perfected for them. And then they're showing it to the world. And you're only seeing that last edited part. So now if you start there, at the end, trying to make the end your beginning, then it's going to cause you to become imbalanced. It's going to cause you to become frustrated. So for me, it's just like my colleague said, you got to remain balanced by just knowing what are the different aspects that are going on in your life. You're going to have a variety of them. And then do you have a handle on them? And I tell if I have a handle on my aspects of life by assessing my heart and mind, because my heart and mind is attached to my stress levels. So if something is pulling too much on my heart and mind in one direction, then I know it's about to cause some stress. So I'm out of balance. So now I need to look at how can I balance that area to get it back in control with all the other aspects that I have going on. So yeah, only stay within, looking within.
Looking within. Jasmine, can you share with us one tip for our audience about how would they find harmony in the things they do in life?
Dr. Tierney, I loved what she said about the best. And I would encourage people to know that the best is a fluid state. And so sometimes your best might be 150%, 100%, that you're able to just go at that pace. But other times your best might be 90%. And that's okay. Recognize that your best changes. And if you strive for your best, that's all we can do. And that's perfectly fine. And that will help you seize the day and, more importantly, seize your life.
Absolutely. Dr. Tierney.
I would challenge people to let go of the idea of perfectionism. That is the number one thing that I see in my clients that's keeping them stuck. It keeps you from taking risks. It keeps you from doing the next thing that you should do, because you're thinking that if it's not perfect, then I shouldn't do it. Or if it's not perfect, I did it wrong. So really letting go of this idea of perfectionism as an achievable target, because sugar, it's not. It's really not.
Stacey.
I would challenge you to stay in the present moment. Like, you're doing so much. Enjoy the ride. Understand your journey. Stay present and celebrate. Celebrate every little step you take so it can give you the encouragement and motivation to keep stepping.
Wow, I love everything that each of you have said, because oftentimes motivation is difficult and there's some ways to achieve it. When we come back after the break, let's talk about things that we balance, because discovering how to compartmentalize your life may be the key to saving your life. We'll be back in a moment after the break.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Welcome back, everyone, to A Balanced Life. As you can tell, there are many ways to discover for yourself what balance looks like, and being able in many different seasons of your life to know when to sit some things down, to sit yourself down. And oftentimes it may begin with being able to compartmentalize. I want to ask Jasmine this question. When we talk about being able to carpe diem, sometimes I just want to carpe sleep. I want to seize my naps. And that may work. That works for me, because that is how I find balance. I get back in my rhythm. Talk to us about the work that you do and why compartmentalizing your life can oftentimes assist and guide you with being able to move you in the direction that you're seeking.
There is nothing wrong with seizing the day and seizing your life with a nap. A nap is a great way to restore and recharge, and I am right there with you, Dr. Jacquie. But when we think about how to compartmentalize our lives, I am touched with a little ADHD. And one of the tools that I have found that works very well for me is time blocking. Blocking out times when I know that I need to write, blocking out times, even in my personal life at home when I'm going to be cleaning. Okay, I'm going to break this down into 4 30-minute blocks. And so in my mind, when you compartmentalize, you're setting your mind up for something that, okay, this is the dedicated time for this activity. This is the dedicated time that I'm going to be doing this. And so it sets you up for success, because you have a start time and you have an end goal using the time blocking example.
So with time blocking and how we move related to each and every day, can you go just a little bit deeper for our audience? This may be the first time that they're watching our show and they're literally thinking, my work-life balance looks like crap. How can we help people put those things in their proper blocks so that they can get the attention and detail that is needed?
I'm going to go back to what Dr. Tierney said about the statement of work-life balance. Let's reframe that to work-life integration. So we know that everything is coming, everything is happening. So how can we integrate the two? For example, when we were talking earlier in the show, and this is not going to be related to time blocking, but we were talking about, I said I have to give the best to the nest. But what if I need to give the best to the nest, but there are also some emails that I need to do? Could I perhaps like sit on the couch and enjoy a television show with my family and then also respond to emails at the same time? That's an example of work-life integration. When we think about compartmentalization, how do you start your day? You know, some people subscribe to that adage, if you win the morning, you win the day. I know I start my day with a motivational or inspirational reading and a gratitude practice. But what if you said, okay, in scheduling my day, in blocking out my day, I know that I need to do a load of laundry for my family. So I'm going to put that laundry in the wash on Tuesday mornings. And when I get home, the first thing I do after I use the bathroom and wash my hands is I'm going to take that load that I put in the washer in the morning and put that in the dryer. That's a way of blocking everyday chore that you need to do.
Thank you for sharing that. You know, how we approach our day and how we approach ourselves they go hand in hand, quite honestly, because we cannot separate ourselves from the things that we need to do. I want to talk to Stacey about this for a moment, because in the realm that you coach people related to employees and staffing, other people play a part in whether or not we can keep balance, keep harmony, keep peace. Stacey, in what ways do we extrapolate ourselves from those things we have to balance in order to stay sane?
Now, you start talking about how do we interact with others to keep ourselves balanced. I think just by, I set my personal goals of what I want to do. And then I look at those goals and break them down into action steps. And once I get to that action step level, that usually is the space where now I'm dependent upon someone else to help me through something that I need to complete on one of those goals. And so now I got to take in consideration what's going on in their world and if they're able to meet deadlines and so forth. And so I think what I tell people is just, can you clearly communicate what your needs are and give those deadlines and be open to and allowing and understanding that they have life in as well, so that you can be on the same page with each other as much as you can, because it just takes finding out how to work in unison with each other. That's usually what I tell my teachers, because things don't work at the school if they're not doing their part. And then when, they find themselves stressing out because they're imbalanced and their life is happening and they're trying to figure out how to jump in and make sure the things that they need for their classrooms are straight. When I feel that they're out of balance because they're not meeting their deadlines, we just sit down and we start mapping. Like, just tell me what's going on. Let's put out what's happening. Because sometimes what'll happen is you'll find that you're spending your time working in areas that, I'm not going to say that's not important, but they're easier to deal with. And the things that you don't really want to deal with, you start, I don't like to use the word procrastinating, but you start skipping over them and you start blaming other stuff. So we just have to communicate, map out, and then help provide a direction of how do we move forward.
So you mentioned another one of those dirty P words. Procrastination often does get in the way of us discovering how and being able to balance. I want to go one step deeper as it relates to dealing with staff and other people. Many people are now back in their offices, in their workplaces. They are taking meetings. And one of the things that they've discovered is they don't have the capacity anymore to deal with people. There's a term, peopling, that's being used. And sometimes it can be a lot. Talk to us, Stacey, about the personal life coming into the professional and how sometimes it can disrupt the workplace.
Yeah, that's what I was saying in terms of, letting your work life and your personal life be balanced. That I see that a lot now because we're back in the classrooms, we're back in the office, and we still have stuff that's happening with us that we haven't flushed out. Mm-hmm. And then once we have to integrate with someone else, we start thinking, this is not working, but you're not taking in consideration that it's really not the interaction that's going on with the other person. Usually, if you look a little deeper, it's something that's going on with you that you haven't settled within yourself, that's sort of blocking you and holding you back. And so now it's, the easier point. Like I tell my staff, if you're at home dealing with, financial issues, right? And, or something unhappy is going on at home. And then you come into your classroom and you feel like the kids are really doing the kid thing and getting on your nerve. I always encourage them to just reflect on what's going on in your personal life, because if the children was doing this before you started having these issues and nothing has changed, then the only thing that could have changed is some factors that's going on within you. So I want to make sure that you're thinking through, the things or the items that you can't change immediately. Like if you're having financial issues, you can't change those immediately, but those things will cause you to think that something else is giving you more stress. So we just do a lot of reflecting and identifying like what's happening in our world. Look at those various aspects that you have to be balanced in, that Dr. Tierney talked about earlier, and really have a mental mind state of being honest about what is happening in all those spaces, because they all interconnect with how you're gonna show yourself in your daily interactions.
I appreciate you sharing that, because sometimes daily interactions, I'm just gonna exhale for the people who are watching, because those daily interactions, now that we're back in the office, often are a part of what keeps us in a state of flux. And I'll ask Dr. Tierney that question, because now that we're back in the office and we're working with people and our space is no longer our own, we've come out of this silo. How are we engaging and helping others discover how to interact with other people in a manner that allows them to, one, not lose their cool, because we stayed home for a minute and we feel like we got our own way of doing things. And now that is not the case. Talk to us about that, Dr. Tierney. How do we level up now that we're back in the office?
Well, the first thing we have to analyze is our relationship and how we handle ourselves. Okay. If I handle myself very harshly, like a robot, I don't give myself grace. I'm having these perfectionism expectations of myself, then that's how I'm going to interact and relate with others. It also comes back to that question that I always ask: who are you? Do you know who you are? Are you an introverted person? Are you an extroverted person? Are you an ambivert? All of that is important when we're thinking about how we show up in the office, how we show up for other people. Case in point, I recently told my mother, I said, Mom, I'm an introvert that knows how to extrovert. And she looked at me like I'd grown a third head, and I explained to her truly that, introverts, we just need, time by ourselves in order to, rejuvenate and, feel alive again. And then we can come back out and people, but after I've peopled for a while, I have to go and have my alone time, and I, explain, hey, that's why when I was a kid, I would close the door, and she got it. She understood it. But she didn't know that at first, because I couldn't articulate that to her, for several years, because I didn't get it myself. I just thought I didn't like people all that much. I really didn't know several years ago that I was truly an introvert, because I didn't show up as what I thought an introvert was. But in these several years of me sitting with myself, getting to know myself, giving myself a lot of grace, loving myself in a different way, now I'm able to better articulate who I am and walk in who I am when I'm around other people. So when we're in the office, it's not about them. It's not about making sure that Sarah doesn't come to your desk with all of her problems, when you want her at your desk, or the water cooler talk, or, Billy in the lunchroom, or whatever it is. It's about you. It's about you knowing who you are and you showing up in the way that makes you your best self. And then you can better interact with the people around you and know where you might need some boundaries, where some conversations might need to happen, so that you can have harmony in your workplace.
Let's talk about that when we come back after the break. We're going to dive right into the deep end and talk about our mental health and the state of mind required to achieve not only your balance, your harmony, but keeping your peace. We'll be back in a moment after the break.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
back, everyone, to A Balanced Life. Now, let me just say, we are in this space of getting ready to dive into the deep end, those deep recesses of your mind and your heart, because there are times when we literally check out mentally, emotionally, relationally. We don't want to be bothered with people. We don't want to go out after work. We don't want to do anything. And that's because we have gotten to a place in a space, whether it's in our work-life balance and our home life balance, with our kids, within our organizations, where we have just had it up to here. We've had enough. We're over it. We're done. We're out. I want to start this question with Dr. Tierney, since she brought it up, being in this relationship space with other people. Let's talk mental health for a moment, Dr. T, and why it's important to be able, as you said, kind of just go to our room and close the door and check out for a moment, but not check out for real for too long.
Absolutely. There's absolutely nothing wrong with needing a minute or several minutes. There's nothing wrong with having several seats. Sometimes culture can tell us that if we're not being all the things for all the people, all at the same time when they need us, then we're being selfish or things like that. And that's not true. You have to know what it is that you need for you and when you need that for you. So you may be in a season of your life where, yeah, you're the life of the party and you're able to go and do this and do that. But then you may find yourself in another season where you may need more time by yourself. You may need more self-care. You may need to luxuriate in those spaces more, journal more. You having a good lock on where you are at all times is critical, and this can happen with career changes. I tell people all the time, I'm the queen of self-care, but as I've really gotten into this coaching space, here in the last 5 years, I'm noticing that I need more quiet time because I'm having more, output with my clients on the show. And, so I really need more time to just kind of sit back and have several seats. It doesn't mean that I'm being antisocial. It doesn't mean that I'm being selfish. It doesn't mean that I, love my family any less. It just means that I need that time for me to make sure that I'm continuing to show up as my best self. And it's important that I know that so that I can explain that to my loved ones, to my clients, or whoever I need to involve in that conversation so that they who are along the journey with me understand what's happening here. It also requires me, as Jasmine was saying, kind of that time blocking. So I know that if I need more quiet time now, then my schedule is going to look a little different. My morning routine is going to look a little different. My wind down routine is going to look a little different. It doesn't matter what I used to do last year or how that worked for me last year. I have to look at the present and right now and what I need in this moment and adjust my life, adjust my time accordingly, because we're going to continue to grow. Things are going to continue to change. Life is going to continue to life. So we have to be flexible in how we show up with ourselves and how we respond to the world around us as things continue to change.
So I'm going to ask Jasmine to weigh in on all of this for a second and just share with us some of the wisdom that you have discovered over time that will keep us in this space where now we're out here peopling with people who are doing too much peopling. Jasmine.
Well, this has been a great conversation. I'm actually taking notes while we are talking. But one of the things that I want to encourage everybody watching this, as you're thinking about prioritization, as you're thinking about all of the things that you have to do, actually two things. The first thing is when you check in with yourself, ask yourself, at what cost? At what cost am I willing to do this? At what cost is this so important to me? In the business world, there's this term called opportunity cost. So at what cost is, driving 35 miles to get this wonderful cake for your little girl's birthday? What is the cost of that? Or is there a baker that's a little closer where you could buy the birthday cake from? And then also we need to be mindful of checking in with ourselves on a more regular basis. I know that we've all had schedules, we all had routines that we used to do pre-pandemic, a routine that we got into the pandemic. This is a new era now. And so we have to be willing to do a little scan. Okay, what's working? What's not working? What's a quick adjustment? What needs to be tweaked? And how can that tweak be made if there's a tweak that needs to take place?
Jasmine, thank you for sharing that, because being able to work with people, be around people sometimes gives us pause. I'm not one to go back into the office. I've sort of given up traveling and getting on airplanes to go places because mentally it is a lot. I mean, just having to deal with the pandemic and protocols and all of those things of that nature, it often gives people an opportunity to say, you know what, let me just step back and see what is important, as you all have already outlined, that discovering what is priority, discovering what matters, discovering what's important are ways for us to begin to tap into how we protect our own mental health. I want to ask Stacey, about this idea of staying balanced emotionally and socially when now employers require us to come out and do things. We have to go places. We have to pick up things. We have to get out when we're saying, I'm not real sure I want to do that, but we don't also want our jobs on the line. So how do we balance that headspace that we have to be in order to do the work that we're hired to do?
So I always tell my staff, don't labor in your emotions. So if an event happens or something occurs that triggers an emotion in you, a negative emotion in you, and you're still expected to go in with a happy face and perform, but in the inside, you're not really feeling whatever it is that you need to perform, then you need to find your supervisor and you need to sit down and you need to have an open conversation. And I pray that you're in an environment where you feel comfortable in being able to do that. And your supervisor is also comfortable in creating that space for those types of communication. And, with different businesses, I suggest that you do just that. Start creating these safe spaces for employees to come in and be open and honest about how they feel. Now, that doesn't mean that your task is going to change, because depending upon the nature of the job, I also tell people that you have to understand the different layers and lenses that everybody wear within the work cycle. So you might be seeing it from one lens and not understanding the business lens that, is also there. That's why communication is important. So if I'm talking about how I'm feeling emotionally, prayerfully, the person above you can give you that other lens and that other perspective. And now that you have the knowledge, we can make adjustments on either end. But communication is key in balancing your emotions. Don't labor in them.
I have a follow-up question for you, because oftentimes when we get so mentally high strung, it's hard to communicate and nobody wants to bend. How do we help people discover the art of compromise and its value to helping the flow of life move smoothly?
Yeah, you just gotta not be afraid to confront it. And you're right. It's some people that will go in and have conversations and another person that's not willing to bend. So now you got to go back to yourself. So if you find yourself in that situation where it is just doing something to you emotionally, so much so, and you've tried to communicate, you've tried to have conversation. Now you can't be selfish in thinking, if I don't get my way, I'm going to leave. But after you hear the perspective from the business side, or you see a different lens, that now gives you the knowledge that you need to say, to make another self-adjustment to say, is this what I continue to want to do? Is this place for me? Is this the space for me? And now you might have to make a tough decision on, your next move. But I mean, I'm going to be clear, because there's a lot of people out there who came back after COVID and they had that idea of, well, if I don't get my way, I'm just going to walk out and quit. And they didn't really care about the perspective of the business, but we all have to learn how to operate in harmony and with each other. So you just need to listen and then decide what's best for you.
Thank you for sharing that. So Jasmine, this brings me to you, because sometimes we can't seize the day or seize every moment of our life because we don't understand the difference between compromise and settling. Can you talk to us about the subtle differences between the two?
Yeah, I think when we think of a compromise is meeting someone in the middle. How can you find that common ground? That's what I think of a compromise. I might not be getting 100% of what I thought I wanted or what I was expecting, but I'm at a solid 90, and the other person's not getting 100%, but they're at a solid 90 also. But when we think about settling, I think you feel that in your gut. You feel that in your spirit from a point of intuition, and you're like, wait a minute, why did I do that? Why did I leave that on the line? but that is not going to work for me. Why did I say yes to this? Why did I agree? I know I've done that plenty of times. Why did I agree to do this when I know it is not going to work for me? That is a point of settling. When you find yourself saying, why did I do this? It's not going to work.
Absolutely. Dr. Tierney, weigh in for just a moment before we head into our next block.
So the thing to expound on what my esteemed colleague just mentioned, the thing with settling, you have to ask yourself, am I getting what I want and or need? So if I'm not getting what I need, this is not helping me to reach my goals. It's actually taking me further away from the direction that I need to be heading, then you're settling. And a lot of times we settle for settling because we're people pleasing. We're trying to make them happy because we're thinking that if they're happy, then we'll be okay. And we're really not keeping an eye on the things that we need and want in our lives. So that's another marked difference between compromise and settling as well.
Thank you for sharing. When we come back after the break, let's talk about soft skills. Some people have them and some people don't, but everybody needs them. We'll be back in a moment after the break.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen shooting.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Everyone to a balanced life, and oftentimes discovering how to keep continuity in the things in your life that really matter to you are the difference between losing your mind, pulling out your hair, running around screaming, consistently being in arguments. So let's talk for a moment about the soft skills that are required for us to achieve the things that we need so that we can live peacefully among all people. Words such as courtesy, compassion, kindness, all of them play a very big part in the soft skills that are needed. I'm gonna just say this up front. Some of us don't know how to talk to other people. So let's have a conversation. Come on in, everybody. Let's talk about, sometimes it's not the messenger, it's how you say what was said that is the difference between getting what is needed and then it being a total all-out blowout. And I'm gonna start with Stacey. As an individual who runs a company, has tons of employees, deals with lots of parents, outside constituencies. How do you say what needs to be said without blowing the cap off of everything? You know it's you.
Let me tell you what I had to work on was my tone. Oh boy, my tone used to can cut you with a knife. And it wasn't so much that, I would be, loud or outrageous, but I would just have this tone that would make you walk away and say, did she just cuss me out professionally? Yeah. What I've learned is that I had to adjust my tone with folks because as people are listening, I'm responsible for what I communicate, but other people are responsible for how they receive and process what I'm communicating. So if I don't have the right tone, if I don't have the right voice levels and so forth. And when I'm communicating with folks, it can confuse the message. So Yeah, you got to know how to say it in the way that's needed. And I've learned that different people need different things said in different ways. So what works for one person doesn't necessarily work for the other person. So I had to learn to start listening a little different and actively listening to what that person need, and not be thinking about what I was going to say next. Just let me hear what you're thinking. And then after they finish, then I can put my thought to it. So tone and listening was the two that I had to work on.
Absolutely. Jasmine, weigh in on this.
Two things that I've had to learn in the soft skills. We hear a lot about emotional intelligence and this word empathy. And I'm a pretty happy person. I'm an optimistic person. And so a person could share a problem they're having, a difficulty. And because I have a bias for action, I want to get to the solution. But I've learned in trying to be a more empathetic person, just to allow things to simmer, to hold space, and just to be there without going to a solution, without saying, we can fix this, being rah, you're going to do this, I'm going to help you, or somebody else is going to help you, but you can get this done. But to say, yeah, you know what, that sucks. It sucks. And what are we going to do?
I love your word. Sorry about that. I love your word, let it simmer, because mine is, let me walk away from this and let it settle. I need to marinate in my soul for a minute before I come back, because as was mentioned, I've learned to be an active listener because, like you, I want solutions. But in order to get solutions, I need to hear what other people are saying, look at some of the options, lay them out on the table, and then come to some general consensus about what needs to happen and needs to be done. Dr. Tierney, talk to us about these soft skills that are required in order for us to stay in relationship properly with other people.
So there's two things that I say to my clients. First, don't let what you say be undermined by how you said it. Stacey talked about tone, and I want to expound on that because a lot of times we forget that communication is not just verbal. Communication is all of the things. So if I'm saying something to you, but I'm saying it like this, then you're going to hear it completely different. Or if I'm talking to you and this is what's happening, then you're going to receive what I'm saying or not saying in a completely different way. So making sure that we understand that we are communicating with our whole body. We are communicating with our face. We are communicating with our hands and everything that is in us. It's not just the words that's coming out of our mouth. The second thing that I tell my clients is seek first to understand before trying to be understood. Oftentimes in communication and with these soft skills, we're trying to get our point across. We're trying to make sure that they understand us. We're trying to make sure that what they not going to do is, and we're doing all of these things to try to make sure that our message is beat into their heads. But when you stop, and we've talked about it from active listening, when you stop to just listen and just listen truly, honestly with what the other person is saying, listen with your ears, listen with your eyes, listen with your heart. Listening is not just in what you hear them say, but how you see them, their body language, that empathy and what you feel them saying. When you listen fully, then a lot of times, not everything needs a verbal response. Then you'll know truly how to respond. You won't be reacting. Do they need a hug? Do they need a solution? Did they just need you to listen to them and not say a word? That helps when we're talking about communication and the soft skills, because when you're listening to someone, then that improves the rest of that, that communication. And when you're aware of how you're communicating, then whatever it is that you say, it will be better received by the other person.
So let's talk about that for a moment. I want to ask Jasmine about, we hear it all the time, don't shoot the messenger. But there are some people who are better equipped to deliver certain information than other people. Why is it important to develop that ability to not just deliver information, but also understand who you're delivering it to so that action can be done and it's received well so things can move forward? Jasmine.
I am certified in this communications tool called psychogeometric shapes, and it speaks to how we respond and how we also communicate. And the way that I respond may not match up to the way that you communicate information. For example, you could be a person that's a blue box and you need all the details. You don't like to be put on the spot. So if I'm going to be in a workplace, if I'm going to be taking you into a meeting, I want you to respond to something I'm presenting. I need to make sure that I've had a pre-meeting with you to say, okay, this is all the information that I have. I'm hoping that you'll be able to support me and get that pre-alignment so that you're not put on the spot. You know, I'm a squiggle and a triangle. So I'm a big thinker. I'm a visionary, energetic. I can deal with some ambiguity, but other people may not be able to do that. So when you think about communicating a message, it's not only the message that you're communicating, but it's how the other person's not going to hear what you're saying, but what do they need so that they can take action, so that they can hear, and so that they can respond? What do they need to get where you want them to get from the information you're sharing or the message that you're sharing?
Thank you for sharing that, because outside of most people using some form of astrology, I hope y'all heard Jasmine. She's recommending that you take some type of leadership, communication, personality profile so that you can truly understand how you work. Seriously, being able to find our tribe in our workspaces isn't easy, but when we're around like-minded people, there is so much progress that can happen. I want to talk to Stacey about that for a moment, because in addition to shapes, I know my colors. I'm going to have to go, Jasmine, and discover if I'm a squiggle, a square, a circle, wherever I may fall on that spectrum. But I know my personality profile. I know my disc profile. I know my colors are combinations of blues and oranges. And so a little hint of yellow. And so I want to ask Stacey about that. Stacey, when you think about the people that you work with and you're dealing with families, you are probably one of the people that deals with more personalities than any of us all together, because in the course of your day, you're dealing with vendors, you're dealing with parents, you're dealing with teachers, you're dealing with other administrators and community people. How do you know who you have to work with other than what's on the resume? How do you get to really know them, to deal with them?
Well, the lessons that I've learned over years, that I can have some people come in with some really great, excellent resumes, but man, they get in there and their personality stinks. And so their characters, they're missing some character traits that's necessary for being able to balance the classroom with their students and their parents. And so if you don't identify those character traits that you're not strong in, like, can you smile? Are you nice? Do you even like kids? What kind of things like that. If you don't work that out within you, it will throw off, just the whole flow of the day. So I've gotten better at paying more attention to people's personalities. It's not just your knowledge that you bring to the table, it's how you bring it to the table. Because if you come in there, you could be the smartest leaf, but if you can't translate or transform or give that knowledge that you have to someone else because they don't like the way you talk to them or treat them or whatever, then in the world of education, you're no good to the vision. So I don't just throw you away, though. We have to have a lot of conversation, and we build a lot on your character. And those who are able to listen to the suggestions that are given, and they start improving themselves and their outlook on the world, usually they work. And that's when you know that you're arriving with your tribe, because they believe in the bigger vision or the bigger thing that you're doing, and they want to do whatever is necessary not to impede on that progress.
Thank you. Vibing with your tribe, because we are a whole vibe, and it is so important to who we are and what we do. Dr. T, take us home.
So the last thing that I would add is that it is important to ask clarifying questions as both the speaker and the listener. We could both say, I'm going to take a rest. But what I mean when I say rest may be different from what you may mean when you say rest. So making sure that as we're, communicating with each other, as we're using these soft skills, that we are early and often asking those clarifying questions, asking, okay, well, I want to make sure we're on the same page. Now, when you say ABC, XYZ, do you mean 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? And just making sure that when we end the conversation, that we both have the same understanding of what it is that we are about to do, what it is that we're about to embark on, so that whatever actions we take that we've discussed in our communication, that we are actually doing exactly what we said that we would do. So there's no gaps, there's no misunderstandings, there's nothing like that. Don't just nod your head and okay, well, yeah, I'm not going to ask any questions because I don't want to sound silly. No, the only silly question is the one that's not asked. So make it a part of your normal to just ask those clarifying questions. And this is professional. This is in personal relationships. This is in marriage. Asking those clarifying questions helps to make the relationship and the interactions actually stronger.
Wow, wow, wow. As you can tell, today you have learned so many things that are going to aid you in not only getting to a state of balance, harmony, and peace, but also things that will empower you to keep your life moving forward. I'll give my reflections after the break.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland@RolandSMartin.com.
Welcome back, everyone, to A Balanced Life. And as you can tell, discovering how to become a person who lives in balance, harmony, and peace requires you to do so first with yourself. Know who you are and whose you are, and settle your soul to reconcile all of those things that are not in peace or in alignment with who you are. The second thing is take time to discover who are the people that need to be around you. There are some people that we say all the time on this show that need to go away. Send them on to their divine good somewhere, because not everyone can go where you're trying to grow. And then third, make certain that you have the skill set, the ability to be at one with yourself in the spaces where you have to be. We all have to go to work. We all have to go to the grocery store. We all have to go someplace. But there is something about us that we bring with us wherever we go that creates chaos and discord. Find out what that is. Get the skill sets that are needed so that you can live in peace, in harmony, and in balance wherever you may be. Thank you all for watching. Bye now.